He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome Breitbart audience, Alex Marlow Show audience, and of course, readers of the Breitbart Business Digest. We are here with Senior Counselor of Trade and Manufacturing, Dr. Peter Navarro, a fan favorite. Dr. Navarro, almost all my questions are on trade and manufacturing.
First of all, welcome to my house.
This is amazing. The White House
Donald
itself.
Trump's 47 White House.
It's incredible.
It's pretty cool.
I have to say, it might get a little tedious for you guys every day, but going in, there is that amazing anticipation when you're walking in, getting the security screen and metal detector. It's exciting.
What I learned from the first term is that every day is precious.
Yes.
And you got to make every day count here, 7 days a week.
This is exactly where I want to start.
Yeah.
Every other question I have is on trade and manufacturing,
Sure.
but I got one.
Sure.
They jailed you. They tried
jail.
to jail the president. They tried to kill the president.
Yes.
Some people will dispute the last part, but I maintain they tried to kill the president.
Okay.
And then he shows up, and he's a totally different man this term than last term. You're a veteran of the first administration as well, so you were in both administrations. The pace in which he's working at right now does not resemble anything that I saw in the first administration. This is like he's on a dead sprint, and my audience, of course, is going wild for it. The media's heads are exploding over it. But do you think those are connected? The urgency that we're all perceiving from this administration and the fact that people like you were thrown in jail, they tried to throw him in jail, they tried to do even worse to him and his family. Do you think that's a big motivator for everyone in the room right now?
The worst day I had in prison was July 13th. Prison's not fun. But that day, I was sitting in a room with a bunch of inmates, and there were some TVs up there. I'm doing a little work. I look up and see boss about to go on stage, and I'm looking at this venue. I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Little bandbox. You got trees in the back. You never should have that open air because it's a perfect place for snipers and things like that. And I just, oh man. And then a little while later, I look up and it was just awful. And the thought of losing his vision and his life, it just was just really, it was hard for me that day. But I do think he's achieved a state of grace, which has allowed him to see the even bigger picture. He's always been the grand chess master, the three-dimensional chess player.
Right.
But I think in this state of grace, he knows exactly what needs to be done based on his experience from the first term. And he's going to go about that in the best way possible on behalf of the American people. With respect to the pace, I mean, let's think about this. We go through the first term, we come in and we don't have the kind of mandate or landslide that was behind us. He's introducing some ideas that are not exactly in concert with the narrative of globalism and free trade and open borders and all of that. And certainly there's a lot of pushback. We don't have the mandate, and there's a big learning curve, right? He's got 4 years to think about what he didn't get done and what needs to be done. And you got folks like Stephen Miller setting up shop, working on executive orders. You got folks like me. I mean, I wrote the book, the new MAGA deal. Right? It's 37 chapters. It's like everything he was going to get done in the first 100 days. I don't think I missed anything in terms of the topics. And they all, by definition, are done in the first 100 days by executive action. Legislation takes too long, right? So, and then we learned how to do executive orders quite well. And it's so, this doesn't surprise me in the slightest, and there's no sign that the pace is going to abate. And we guess it's just a lot of work to do. I mean, whether it's men and women's sports or sealing the border or stopping the cheaters from taking us in the trading environment or running down the gangs and sending them back to where they came from, getting a better tax deal and no tax on tips. I mean, let's get it done. There's only 1,500 days in a 4-year term.
Yeah.
And I saw what it's like when those bastards come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I know what it's like going in. I know what it's like going out. And when you have to turn the reins of power over to people who don't know what they're doing and don't care about this country, that's hard.
I've been asking a lot of senior people who I've been interviewing either from the Senate side or from the executive side if they feel like they're part of history right now, because from afar, that's what it feels like we're witnessing.
Oh, no question about it. This is the most fundamental restructuring of both border and immigration policy and trade policy in our history. And as revolutionary as what we will be doing on the border is, what we're doing with respect to trade policy in conjunction with tax policy is unprecedented in a way, although in a way we're simply going back to our roots. The whole idea of an external revenue service funding the government through tariffs and having a low regulatory and tax burden, that goes back to Alexander Hamilton and Jefferson and President Trump's favorite president, McKinley, who ran on a platform. I'm a tariff man running on a tariff platform. So the essence of what the president is trying to do is build a level playing field for the American people with the rest of the world in a way which will allow us to grow a strong economy while enjoying price stability and seeing the real inflation-adjusted wages of the American people rise, as they did in the first term. One of the great achievements of President Trump's first term was to see deplorable wages rise in real terms, whereas Biden, they plummeted. So elections matter.
All right, you guys all know that I've been telling you to buy gold ever since I started the show, and I'm looking pretty good in that prediction right now. $3,000 an ounce. Meanwhile, inflation's still with us. Dollars diving, stock market's on shaky ground. Goldman Sachs thinks it could go to 3,300 this year. I think they might be underselling it. I think it could be even more than that. It's up big this year. It's up huge over last year. It's up monstrous if you got into gold years ago. You don't want to make this mistake again. There's an important kicker here as well. You can add physical gold and silver to your IRA or your 401k, tax and penalty free. And my friends at Priority Gold are here to help. They have a free webinar, can show you exactly how. They'll walk you through the latest forecast, straightforward strategies. They'll do a live Q&A with you. They will help you shield your retirement from all the chaos. And I think it's going to help you grow your wealth as well. So don't wait. Go to PriorityGold.com. It's PriorityGold.com. You can also text FREEDOM to 24999, and they can get you that free webinar. And when you do it, you're going to sign up, and it's going to strengthen your portfolio with gold and silver. PriorityGold.com or text FREEDOM to 24999. Smart move. Get after it. I want you to explain to me, as if I'm part of the most ignorant group of people in America, the Ivy League educated globalist, why do we need tariffs?
What we need, Alex, is to level the playing field. About 125 countries out there that trade with each other in any substantial way. And dating back to the way the trading regime was set up after World War II, which established us kind of as the welfare king of the world for the rest of the world to help them rebuild. We're in a trading system in which everybody, by the rules of the World Trade Organization, is allowed to cheat us. And they cheat us in two ways. They cheat us with their tariffs on products being higher than ours, whether it's Europe with a 10% tariff on autos and we only have a 2.5% tariff, or it's some of the crazy dairy tariffs in the EU, like 40% on dairy, or Canada, like 200%. So the tariffs are higher, across the world on average against us. But there's also these things called non-tariff barriers, which are used to keep our products out or add costs to being able to send them to them. There are things like in agriculture where they're called phytosanitary standards, right? They don't take the GMO corn from us, so we can't sell to them. So the reason that we need to address that is because it impoverishes our nation. When we have unequal trade, NAFTA, letting China into the World Trade Organization, this broader WTO screw job, which is exactly what it is, we run these very large trade deficits, about $1 trillion a year. Now, that means that we put $1 trillion a year into foreigners' hands to go out and come back into this country to buy our apartment buildings, our houses, our agricultural land, our food supply chain, our commercial office buildings, and our stocks and bonds. And that's a transfer of wealth. Every year that we do that makes us poor as a nation, reduces our sovereignty. And so what we need to do is level that playing field so that we have a strong manufacturing and defense industrial base for our economic and national security, that we have our factories and jobs here rather than there, so that we have the kind of picket fence income we used to have for the middle class and the working classes of this country. And tariffs, the whole idea that the president has of leveling that is what he calls reciprocal tariffs.
Right.
What all that simply means is that we're going to charge them whatever they charge us. So if we're in a world where we're trading with, say, the European Union, and they do indeed charge us with higher tariffs on autos and ag and everything.
I was just noticing, we've got the lowest trade barrier of any G20 country.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah. How many Americans? What percent of Americans do you think know that? Do you think it's 0 or do you think it's 1%?
I think it's
very low.
It's going to be a little higher after this show airs, but
yeah, a little bit.
It's small, and as I said earlier, it's a system actually institutionalized by the rules of the World Trade Organization. Yeah. There's this concept known as most favored nation, MFN. What it means, Alex, is that when I agree to be in the World Trade Organization, I agree to charge every country of the world the lowest tariff I charge any country. So if I charge you 2.5% on your autos coming in as a tariff, I have to charge everybody else. But if Europe charges 10% to us, they can charge 10% to everybody else. So it's just crazy stuff. And so if China charges 20%, they can charge 20% to the rest of the world. So it's fundamentally wrong. We did it. Look, after World War II, the world was in shambles.
Right.
And we thought that by fostering an international trading environment, the rising tide would lift all ships. And we were wealthy enough that we could afford to be essentially giving out welfare to the world, which is what our trade system did. Yeah. We can't do that anymore. Right. And what Europe has to understand, what the Japanese have to understand, what the South Koreans have to understand is like, look, if we keep doing it this way, we're not going to be able to have a defense industrial base so that when you come calling and say, hey, we need your help, we won't be able to do it, much less defend ourselves. Right. So this is unfair trade has become at this point an existential threat to democracy and freedom in this country.
Yes.
President Trump recognizes that. And what he's asking for, who can argue with this?
Yeah.
Who can argue with reciprocity?
No.
And if they want to lower their stuff,
maybe we should rebrand it. Yeah, maybe we'll call it equitable trade because they love that word. We could put a left-wing spin on it, but it's the.
We'll say no.
Here's a big question.
That word is.
No. We're going to do reciprocal.
I get it.
It's
just teasing.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just teasing the whole left with that one. So, but there's a few components of that. Some of this is there's going to be some positive immediate effects. There's going to be some that are not necessarily as positive. Let's take a positive one. Feels like with the new tariffs, reshoring is already happening. You guys are getting some victories on that. Can you speak to some of those?
In the first term, we instituted, for example, steel and aluminum tariffs.
Yeah.
We had $15 billion for that single industry, the pledge. I mean, that's an important industry, but relative to, say, autos, it's a little smaller, right? $15 billion. We've already had like $2 trillion in pledges. Now, what does that do for the American people? When we have capital investment, you effectively add more machines to your existing labor force. What that does is increase productivity. When you have higher productivity, that increases wages.
Yeah.
Not in a non-inflationary way. It's the key. So this is what's going to happen, and the whole restructuring of the international environment will entail the leveling of the playing field, and then the reshoring of production.
Yeah. So I had a concept I was thinking about because I read all the conservative literature growing up, of college Republican, all that, and I was told free trade is the only thing on an intellectual level. And to me, having that be 20 years ago and having lived through the MAGA movement and been an early adopter of the MAGA movement as you were, it feels like free trade is a hoax, as I was taught it. That it's not real. It's not. It ends up just turning into we get rolled by other countries. And
well, it's not a hoax, but it's not completely taught to you as an undergraduate.
Whatever it is on the books is not how it comes out.
I'll tell you what's missing. Okay,
Yeah.
The whole notion of free trade is based on something called the Ricardian model and the notion of comparative advantage. If you make something better than I do and I make something better than you do, it's better that you and I trade those goods and the pie will get bigger. Okay, that's the notion. Therefore, everybody's better off with trade. Problem is when you introduce that concept in a multilateral framework across the world, there's winners and losers. And one of the key assumptions of the Ricardian model buried in the footnotes is that the losers have to be compensated by the winners.
Yeah.
So if workers are getting hurt here in America and Wall Street's making out like bandits, there's got to be, and that's, I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like free trade is based on Marxism in a way, right? I mean, think about it. But it's a ridiculous notion. Now, the other flaw of the Ricardian model, which gave rise to Brexit as well as all of discontent in America over NAFTA, is that both capital and labor are mobile, okay? Now think about that. So depending on conditions, you're in Britain, right? Labor's mobile, and the next thing you know, you got the world coming in to your factories willing to undercut your wages by a significant amount. And then soon everybody in these blue-collar English towns are speaking Polish and Czechoslovakian and whatever, and it's. I mean, like, immigration is fine if it benefits a country, but if it totally destroys a country, I mean, interesting statistic here, and I was surprised that the Biden regime even published it. If you look at the net new job creation during the Biden administration, virtually all of the new jobs were taken by illegal aliens.
Right.
And virtually all of the people who lost their jobs, because it was a net kind of thing, were American citizens. I mean, that is friggin' insane.
Disqualified.
That's the Ricardian free trade model.
Yeah, right.
That's insane. And it's like insane. You can't. And the problem is that the media, the legacy media broadly defined, they're not only in a lot of ways too dumb to be able to explain that. It's like they have vested interests that won't let them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at who pays their bills, just watch the commercials, and that'll tell you exactly why they don't tell you the truth, right? It's Big Pharma wanting to run their corporations out of Ireland, and so that they don't have to pay any corporate taxes, right? It's the big corporations who want to send all the jobs to communist China because you got slave labor and pollution havens and all that. So,
as editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, I've witnessed the profound impact that grassroots movements can have on our nation. In 2024, we the people reclaimed our country. And now there's a similar movement, similar people to be honest, in the entertainment industry. They're trying to take that back as well. That's Angel Studios, a grassroots-driven movie studio empowering us to take back the culture. Angel Studios is producing films that resonate deeply with audiences, such as The Sound of Freedom, a film that courageously exposes global injustices. They have faith-based projects like Riot and Dance and His Only Son. They're delivering content that uplifts and inspires. Unapologetically patriotic films such as Mike Rowe's Something to Stand For and Homestead reminds us that our values truly matter. By joining the Angel Guild, you can influence which stories are told, stories that reflect our shared values and ensure quality entertainment to our families. I encourage you to support the Angel Studios in their mission to reshape our culture positively. Easy to do. Go to angel.com/Marlow, become an Angel Guild member today, and champion films that truly matter. That's angel.com/Marlow. Get involved. It's a great group of people taking back our culture. So there's two criticisms that we're seeing of the current trade policy in terms of the way it's affecting Americans right now. And I'm going to do them one at a time. The first one is stock market going down. Now, I thought the president campaigned too hard on the high stock market his first term. I thought that doesn't touch enough of those blue-collar Americans. So I kind of like that it doesn't seem like the stock market is his boss these days. But it's not up now in his presidency. What is the time horizon? How much heat can you guys take on this? What is the time horizon where you feel like we could see some return?
To level set, I spent 20 years as a macroeconomic forecaster, specializing in the relationship of the business cycle to the stock market cycle, okay? And I predicted the collapse of the housing bubble. I predicted the 2007, 2008 Great Recession. That's the level set. So what I'm seeing now in the data is totally orthogonal to what the media is saying. Okay, there is no urgency related to either inflation or recession. That's gloom and doom that the media is propagating. What we're doing systematically is very bullish, and it's bullish because we have a 3D, what I call a 3D war on inflation, which is the deregulation, drill, baby, drill, and Doge. All of that, those forces are huge compared to any trade effects on inflation. The positive deflationary effects of those are going to be the dominant feature of that. At the same time, to grow the economy, we've got drill, baby, drill as well, and the deregulation. But we have a tax cut that's coming down the road. We're going to have clawbacks of the overspending by Biden, which will help lower interest rates, mortgage rates, consumer credit rates. And for me, it's very, very bullish. And what I'm seeing is an attack by the legacy media, narrowly focused on the trade issue, designed to do, as the legacy media always does, attack and destabilize the Trump administration.
Right.
That's their thing. And what I'm worried about, they have a responsibility to the American people. And if they do this gloom and doom and gloom and doom and gloom and doom and don't state what the actual situation is, they can influence sentiment.
Yeah.
Consumers, if they lose their confidence.
Yeah, I was going to ask about consumer prices. How does all this affect consumer prices?
Well, we're seeing those are heading down as we do all the things we do. The 3D dimensions on taking things down. We're getting our egg prices down. Barrel of oil's fallen already by about $8 or $9.
Yeah.
And that helps lower food prices. Why? Because petroleum is a key feature of one of the highest cost inputs of agricultural production, which is to say fertilizer. So I maintain that everything we're doing points to strengthening our economy and tamping down on inflation, and that things are bullish.
Yeah.
And to say otherwise is to ignore the data and to act in an irresponsible manner.
So Dr. Navarro, they're saying I got one more question.
Sure.
And I want to ask about China. Is this all part of step one, our current trade policy, step one towards decoupling from China, or is it more subtle than that?
It's not about China. It's about the way the world is cheating us. And China is certainly the biggest cheater in the world, but the EU, the European Union, and Vietnam run close seconds, as does the problems we have with South Korea and Japan. Cambodia has become a transshipment point for all the China stuff.
You're sounding very Trumpian here. You're sounding like these countries are all on notice, and you're gonna play nice now, or else things will get more difficult for you.
When you interview the president and you ask him about reciprocity, I would bet you a lot of money he will say, we're going to charge them what they charge us, whether it's China or the European Union or Mexico or Canada or Brazil. Look, if you look at the trade deficit issue, remember it's about $1 trillion a year. That's a lot of America you can buy. There's about 25 of the 125 countries that are responsible for most of the cheating. And we need to have that cheating stop. And the way President Trump's going to do it is with reciprocal tariffs, which are fair. No one around the world will be able to say that what the president is doing is unfair in any way if they simply look at the chessboard. Because what's unfair is the status quo. And the countries out there that are cheating us are going to do everything to maintain the status quo. And it's unfortunate that a lot of the American media is going to try to help them do that just because they hate Donald Trump more than they love this country.
Perfect way to sign out. Dr. Peter Navarro, Senior Counselor of the President. Always wonderful to see you and get the information.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what you guys do.
That means so much to us.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone in the Breitbart audience, Alex Marlow Show audience. Talk to you next time.